Good day, everyone. I hope your morning is running, as they say, in that good way. When we say good morning, we put in that vibration of our spirit. It's almost lighting a fire. And so this is why we always say good day, good evening, and good all these good things. And because you are learning the language of love, that is the first language, and all around the world. And that was the original instruction. And so this is why we do the Thanksgiving address, because we're talking about all the good things that come to us, all the good things that was provided for us. And so we will continue. And so we talked about last week, we talked about the bushes and the trees. And so we're going to talk about what we are, what we take for granted. And that is the animals. We've really taken them for granted. And it's almost like we forgot their purpose. And their purpose is they're the first maintenance crew. They're the first teachers. They're the first survivors. And whatever happens to them happens to us. And so we must be very mindful of that all the time. And that's why we always give thanks to them. And so we look at them and we think of how, they do all this work for us and our mother, the earth, without asking. Today's society, we're always asking for money. If what do I get for doing this? What will I get for doing that? And it's kind of just a reminder how loved we are. That they that they jump right in and they take care of everything. And this is where we got to really consider us as human beings. What are we doing to our mother, the earth? And this is why I really talk about this to my grandchildren now, about how the animals they're getting killed because they're trying to do their work. And so one of that is when the bugs come and people come and spray them in it, and or the the bees and all these. And this is what is happening to them. It's just like a good example that they're into drugs, because all those chemicals that you're spraying affects them. So it affects us. And so it's just very similar to what's happening to our loved ones. And you see how they act. Sometimes the bee will not attack unless it knows there's danger. But right now, the bee, because in that chemical mode, they're not functioning that way. Just like with our people. And so when they bump into somebody, they don't realize it is by accident, and so they're going against their instinct. And so you have to consider, even even the raccoons. Everybody's complaining about the all the animals coming into town, and you know what? You've taken over their homes. You've taken over all what was used to be their territory, where their food was and their home was. And so traditionally, when this is what I tell my children, when I build my house, I ask permission. I put down that tobacco, and I ask permission for us to live together in a good way. And so I have been very blessed that the animals, we kind of live together in balance. And so sometimes I'll have a skunk, but sometimes I'll have rabbits. Well, I do have a lot of rabbits, and I do have a lot of other animals too, and the birds. And so I try to bring that story of the animals, how in creation they were meant for us, how they came to take care of our environment. That's what they're due to do. You hear about what is happening to the birds. Even a simple thing like you toss your gum, a used gum, you throw it on the ground, and those birds will come along, or those animals, and it'll get stuck right here because they're not used to how this is a different kind. And so I think about that. And so, anytime you have some gum, put it in the garbage or something so that they don't die. Even throwing, how they used to have plastic. things, while the birds get caught up in it, and people throw them in the water and the nets, and they get caught up. And it's so sad because the animals, they're trying to clean the land. People are throwing chemicals into their, flushing the toilets, and what is happening to our fish, what is happening to them. And so this is why we always have to be mindful. And so this is the story I teach what's why we say thank you, because they're going about and they're making sure the water is clear, the air, and the water. And so this is why we give thanks to them every day. And I look and I see that they're fulfilling their duty. And so I think of the deer. There was a time and when the peacemaker came, and the peacemaker went about just very similar to what was happening today, and he had to help people that had troubled minds. And so this one man that he went to visit, he was very evil, and what he did was he liked to kill people. And so the Creator, after talking with him, said he no longer needed to kill people, and that there would come a gift that would sustain us. And so he says, go um, to your entrance of your door, and there appeared out of the edge of the woods was a deer. And this is why the deer plays a very important role in our way of thinking, because the deer is so gentle and kind, and the deer even when you shoot that deer, this is why our people are are so committed to that, honoring him, that they offer tobacco on their first hunt. And this is what we teach our sons to do, when they have a kill or before they go out for a kill, is that they're supposed to put down that tobacco, because that's like respect, honoring that animal that has come to feed you. And this is what is said in our ways, that we are to have we are to have wild meat. Why? Because it makes us survival mode, because it knows how to survive. It knows how to, when there's danger, it knows how to think, it knows what to do. And because the other animals that you are eating today, they're not free ranged, as they say, running about. They are taken care of. They are looked after. And so the deer teaches us how to be very, very skillful in many things. And so this is what plays a very important role in our children's life, for them to have wild meat. And so I'm very lucky that my great grandson has done that, and my son, my grandson, and then my great grandson. And so these are a role that plays out because of giving thanks to the animal, because we use the hoofs, we boil them and we dry them, and then we use them for our ceremonies, because we would wrap them around our legs, as shake rattles. And so there's many things in the leather we use for their everything, for our wardrobe, our dresses, our books, our loincloth, our leggings. Oh, there's so much things that we use. We use every part of the deer because we're so grateful. And we honor that deer because it came to us. Like, there's the moose, and there's the elk, and there's the bisons. We honor them because they know how to survive in all kind of elements. They're out there in the cold. They're out there in all seasons, and so it teaches our children to be more resilient. And this is why it plays a very important role. And now we think of all those other animals, how they come, the winged ones, the fin ones, all of them, how they're going about the earth and looking after it. And they're out there in all kinds of weather. They're not housebound. And it's so sad. What has happened is a lot of the animals are being house pets. And a lot of them animals will not know how to survive. They do not know how to survive. I had a friend that had a cat, and the cat has been bound, and so the cat did not even know how to kill a mouse because it was always given food. And so this is their duty, is to be outside, to be protecting, and to take care of us. And so we have, even though maggots, they're there to clean up the earth because people have forgotten how to clean. And so maggots come, they have a purpose. And so you even the bloodsuckers, we have them. They're there for a purpose. Everything has a purpose. The frogs, they have a purpose, and yet people like to um, harm them, kill them. And so this is why we often have to think about what is our relationship. These these ones that come with much love, they come to help us. And so let us think about that when we see them. And we always refer to them as our relatives, our family. And so we have the trees. So we talked about the trees. And so now we're going to talk about the water. The water. You know that water is such a sacred gift. That's our first birthplace. And we need to get back to using cold water. This is why we have so much health problems today, is because we have broken down our resilience. We have weakened our bodies. We haven't used, when you take a shower, you have to turn it and you just leave it on hot and then you shut it off. Well, that's what's is a very sad thing to do. You need to learn how to moderate, just like going through the seasons and being outside all the time is conditioning your bones, your muscles, everything. And it's amazing because that's where vitamin D comes from. And so when we have that water, the water comes to us, and the trees, we never had a weatherman before. The animals were, the stars were, they were telling us, but get ready. How many of you notice? I don't, as they say, rely on the news weather all the time. I look and I see the stars, and they tell us what kind of weather is going to be. Even the trees, they talk to us and tell us. Even your nose, you can smell water, and that is the most beautiful thing. And everything there is water. I don't know why people have salad dressing on top of their lettuce and everything, because everything contains water. Water. And that's what our body needs. If you don't drink enough water, your bones become brittle. Your bones are more acceptable to breaking, and your stunt your growth. That's what my grandma used to say. You need to drink water to really strengthen your bones. And so water plays a very important role in our lives. And I like to always think of my tears. How those tears, they're a thermometer, because that's how my grandma would explain. She says, when you cry, when you allow yourself to cry, taste your tears. She said, if they're salty, then there is a lot more sadness inside, and you need to come like a big flood. You need to let it just big thunderstorm come and let it come out. She says, and then it'll taste. Then I want you to taste it again. She said, if it's sweet, then you have done your duty. You have taken care of your body. That's how special you are, and that's why water was put into you, so that you can get rid of a lot of toxic. And that's why our people fast, was we had to learn how to appreciate water. That plays a very important role in our life. Water. Water. We were even taught, when you're fasting, you don't drink. When you get off of fast, you don't drink that water with big gulps. What you do is you take a little bit and you sample it, and you really, really get in touch with that first touch of water. Oh, it really teaches you about how important water is. And then you could almost like a spoonful and just let it go throughout your mouth, and let that relationship happen again, but in a ceremonial way, because drinking water was ceremony, because we knew how precious water was. And every time we used water, we were in ceremony. See, even washing your face, what is you doing? It's almost like a form of praying. And so when you wash your face, you're renewing your life. you're renewing your life. And so even bathing, you're releasing all the negativity off of yourself. You're moving all that sadness and things off of you. And so this is why water plays a very important role. And even listening to water, that water when you sit along the lake or the rivers and you see how the water moves, it keeps in time with our water inside, because if we're rough and after a while we're listening to the water, it calms us down. It is a powerful thing. And this is why it also talks about um, our anger. If you have anger, you need to put water in. And this is how we disciplined our children a long time ago, because anger is represented by a fire. And if your anger gets out of control, it's just like a fire. It can burn other people and harm them. And so this is why traditionally this is how we discipline a child, and we put out that fire. And so even when they were babies, when they were little toddlers and they would have their screaming fits, what they would do is we would throw cold water on them, and a child would go. So in a sense, you were putting out that fire so that that child would be that that emotion wouldn't overtake them and hold it inside them. See how important water is? Yes, and if you're angry and you're upset, take a shower, because that will help you relieve. If you have anxiety, if you have all these things, that depression and all these things, just take a shower. And it hits us. This is your birthing, and this is what it opens it up again and renews your life again, because that's your first home. That's your first home, because you were in your mother's womb, and you were in fluid. You were moving in that place of the water. And so even when you were coming, you broke that water so that you could come here. And that's the most beautiful thing, is that birthing time is that water. That's why we held high regards for our water, because it gives life. It is a life giver. And so even in healing, you can use it in healing. And a lot of people have forgotten that water is one of the most important thing of healing. Whenever we make medicine, we talk to the water before we mix in the herbs and the plants and things, and then we ask the fire to help the water. It's just like a relationship of two healers coming together to help heal. And so that water is even more beneficial. This is why if you find sometimes those pills cannot go down your throat, it's because your body was made to receive nurturing by liquid mostly. And so this is why our people would always have, as they say, soups, because soups was had all the nutrients in it. But we would have various ceremonial drinks, and you even talk to water. We've forgotten how to talk to water. It's just like our food. We have forgot how to say thank you to the water before it even touches our lip, because this is a sacred gift. And when you respect your water, it's amazing what can happen to you. It builds up your immune system just by saying thank you to your water, and doing that. It builds up your immune system, because what it is doing is feeling and passing on your words love. And my when we do our moon ceremonies, one time I was doing my moons doing sharing the moon ceremony. I was sharing with them that one day science is going to prove all indigenous knowledge, and especially with our water. And so a young man spoke up and he says, "That's so true, Grandma." He says, "Because I want you to." There's a man out there across the water. His name is Dr. Emoto, Emoto. Check him out on his understanding on the water, and how the water, what we do with our water inside our body, causes us to have illness, depression, and all those things. So just be mindful of that water. And so now we give thanks to all the waters, from the water that came from the sky world. When it comes a little drop, we give thanks for it. And then when it becomes a puddle, then when it becomes a stream, then when it becomes a creek, then when it becomes a river, then when it becomes a lake, and then the ocean. And then, it always returns back to the sky world to get blessed and to come down again. And so we give thanks for that relationship with. We have songs for it, and it is so beautiful to hear the songs of the water. And this is why we give thanks to the water. The water plays a very, very important role in our sustaining our lives. And so when I make my medicine, this is why teas are more beneficial for you, because teas will, you take that herb, that the natural herb, and you put it together with fire and water. It is a gift to you. So every morning I have a different kind of tea. So today I have fennel. I have a mix of herbs together. So it helps regulates your body. And so this is why we are to use, as they say, the gifts of Mother Earth, because she wants us to be well. And so now we look and we see, we give thanks to the waters, and now we acknowledge the winds that come from the four directions. We knew what kind of winds, when the winds came, what kind of weather we would have. We would have winter, cold, wet winds, or it was amazing because my dad, when I was little, he said, "Oh, it's going to rain today. Oh, it's going to be really a really blistery day." And I go, "How'd you know?" He says, "The wind is telling me." And he says, "Put your nose in the air, feel it, let your body feel it." And sure enough, it tells us, and that's what a lot of our men needed to know, those teachings of the universe, because they were hunters, they were men out there working with nature, and so they learned all these things because they didn't have a cell phone, they didn't have the technology that you have today. They had the most important technology that doesn't need any hydro or anything. They had that wisdom and knowledge from the teachings of the land. And so now we go and we give thanks to those winds, because they are to bring change, and that's the most beautiful thing. And they are also to bring the blessings. When we're in ceremonies, we're sending off kind words and good words. And so the wind comes and he picks up all those kind words that people have said and put it and pass it on. But yeah, you got to be careful too, because it passes on the angry winds. And so we as elders, we're in prayer constantly, because we don't want that anger winds to overtake the people. And so when we hear the big winds coming, we will pray. And this is what people have forgotten, how to use kind words so the winds will carry that and take care of them. What happens when they hear the big winds? They go in that fear mode, and so they add more violence to that wind, that force of that wind, because the wind is picking up their energy. So just be mindful. This is why we were very spiritual people, because we understood the elements of nature. If there was overburden of one, we had to bring in the other, so that we kept the earth in balance. And so spirituality played a big role in our everyday life. And so this is why we say thank you. Thank you to the winds that bring us all these different changes that is needed for our life. But also, when we're grieving, the wind comes. It is almost like the kiss of our loved ones, those ones that have passed on, those ones that are in the sky world. It's just like, and so that wind comes and it caresses you, and it plays with your food, hair, into your food. And so, yeah, it does touch your food too, because it is that gift of love. And so it's just as if a grandmother has come and has touched you and shared that love, that feeling. And so this is why when you were little, you would go outside and you would just immerse yourself into all the winds, the rain, and all those things, the element. So even the snow is part of of water. So give thanks for the snow. Don't be grumbling, because the snow also, it is condensed, because it is to take down the virus that man has created. Isn't that beautiful? The colder it is, the more beneficial it's going to be for everyone. That's why cold showers are beneficial for you. Do you notice the trees? Because we're given that extra cold winter this past winter, that the trees look more healthy. And this is why the trees got weak, is because there was more invasion of bugs, and these bugs got that's how nature takes care of that on balance. And here comes man putting spray. And meanwhile, I when I seen the airplanes coming, known our territory was going to be sprayed, I said, hide, hide. I was telling all the insects and everything to go and to be protected. So the winds and the cold, they bring that very essence of love. So this is what I like to remind my children. If it's really, really cold out, then you won't have to worry about too much in the spring, in the summer, being bothered by a lot of insects and bugs, because it takes that time to look after us at winter. And so know that even when the winds come, our people always knew that if these winds were coming, it's because the people have lost that relationship with the winds. And so we put down our tobacco too, to ask the winds to be kind and gentle to us. And that we mean the trees and all those things, that creation, that's what we mean. And so we want to keep things in balance. And that's why we have trees to when that wind comes, it was to almost to direct it another way. And in the cities there are tall buildings, so that wind will come right through, and it's just like a corridor of real forceful winds. So this is why we give thanks to the all those beings. And now we have our eldest brother. You see, these two, the grandmother moon and the sun, they were brothers and sisters. And so the brother had stayed in the sky world where he is today. And he has also made a commitment to always look after his sister's children. And that plays a role. The sun plays a very important role to all male, because it was to represent to them their roles and responsibility of taking care of their loved ones, of their nieces and nephews, and of their children, and to provide a safe environment, a warm environment. That means love, kindness, and goodness, because the son has that job, and that's what he does. And you know what? He's not judgmental, because in our way, we never had stepchildren, stepfather, step this, step that. We had a brother, a sister, an uncle, an auntie. That was the Western way of a family. And so the animals had taught us how to adopt. There was no such thing as a stepchild. They never, because even that word, my mother, she said she didn't like that word, because what it did was remove them when they're supposed to belong to us, belong as a family. And so it plays a very important role. Um, and so we go to the sun and how he, excuse me, see, even that sneeze, it is an effect from my looking at the sun, right? How many of you sneeze when you look at the sun? It's almost like to stimulate your body again. I almost forgot that. And that's why my body did that, was to remind me. Another purpose of that sun was to motivate, not to motivate, but to stimulate our body. When we sneeze, it moves things in our body that may settle in there, like detoxifying our body. It lets off some of the virus and the germs. So Those are things that people have lost an understanding of. And so that sun teaches our children they are to be up. They are to greet the sun, not to lay in bed till 11 or noon. So you see the sun, they tell we are to tell our children that they are to be up before that sun, before the sun comes. And this is when they're to be outside before to receive that power of that energy that the sun will give them to help them to be more resilient. And our men long time ago would always be out there and they would sing a song to greet their eldest brother. That was showing respect. And so the sun, he was a guardian of parenting, another part of parenting, how to take care of each and every one. And so you see, we don't say that stepchild, you know, all creation are our family. And that's how the sun was to teach us that he shines his love upon all things. He doesn't say, oh, you're a step tree, you know. So we have to remove those terms because we can hurt someone's spirit by saying, oh, you're a stepchild. Never say that. In our way, I was raised that way because we would have my grandma, she was raised by other people. When she lost her mother, it wasn't adoption. I mean, like what you do today. They, in our way, we, as soon as there was a need, we took care of it and we looked after them. And so even growing up, we had in our home, we had community. I mean, our our little community in our area. If the children were there, my dad took them in he, as I grew up, my parents took in our friends, and so there would be a lot of children around our house because that's how our family was. We were to show that love for one another because this is why my mom would say this is why they come to us is because this is what they're missing at home. And that is one of the most beautiful things is that relationship with family. Everyone is family. And that's what the sun teaches us that wherever you go you're supposed to say hi, you're supposed to greet them. And that's why the birds and the animals today, you go and walk down the road or something, and you'll see the dogs snarling at you. It's because of how people have become. And so the dogs have lost their instruction because now they snarl and they growl at you. And so they just try to intimidate you too. And so, you know how some of the animals are so friendly, they'll go right up to you. The dogs will go right up to you. And a lot of people are afraid. So you see, the animals, they teach us a lot, and that's what they learn from the sun. And so the sun, he's also the medicine for us to be well. There's your vitamin D, vitamin C, all the nutrients. Where does he, that love that he shines, he gives that to the all creation so that they're embodied with love. And so this is why all our food, everything that we were to take was to be filled with love. But they said there will come a time, and this is why our two-row wampum comes in, because it tells us that relationship with the land, the air, and the moon. And so we have this opportunity again. So we'll talk again of Grandmother Moon next. So thank you.